Okay, so to identify one-to-one function by using algebraic method, we will substitute x1 and x2 into the function. Try to figure out x1. Try to simplify and find out x1. So if your x1 answer is equal to x2, means what? Means this function is one-to-one. So actually x1 and x2 is different. Means different value, but you can find it the value is same, means it come back to one-to-one. So we discuss on our question A. So to perform algebraic method, we will substitute x1 into the function. Substitute x1 into the function and equals to the substitute x2 into the function. So start with this equation. So when you substitute x1 into the function, it will become 3x1 plus 2. Then when you substitute x2 into the function, it will become 3x2 plus 2. What do you need to find is find out your x1. Cari x1. Cari x1. So 2 pindah ke sana, kosong. Then 3 pindah ke sana, boleh diringkaskan, betul? So finally we get the result x1 equals to x2. So from here we know that this function is one-to-one function. So our reason is since x1 equals to x2, this is a one-to-one function. So our procedure is substitute x1 equals to substitute x2. Find out your x1. So operate, try to bring everything back to the right hand side. x1 at left hand side. So second function, quadratic function. So when we're doing quadratic function, it is better for us to do in completing the square. Okay, so first step, substitute x1, substitute x2 into the function. It will be x1 squared plus 4x1 plus 1. x2 squared plus 4x2 plus 1. How do you want to find x1? You need to completing the square. Alright, you need to completing the square. You can't do factorization. If you factorize x1, you still have x1 there. So you're completing the square. So how to do completing the square? Make sure your coefficient here is 1. Put in bracket x1 square. That will be our first step, A. For second term here, b over 2. So b over 2, you give 2. Second step. Third step, whatever value that you already written in the bracket here, you minus that. Last one, for value C, we just copy. So this is how we completing the square. So you can notice that your x1 now is in the structure of one terms only. Before this, our x1 is in 2 terms. So you cannot find out what's your x1. So after you completing the square, your x1 is appears once only. Okay, so we can repeat again. We can repeat again for this quadratic. So how to do completing the square? For the first step, put your x squared into the bracket square. For second step, we go for b. So this x2 no need already. x2 already done the job. So for b here, we're going to divide by 2. So it is equals to 2. 4 divided by 2. Third step, the value that you put in bracket, we minus that. Because when you expand this, we want this 2 term only. We don't want this constant. When you expand this, you have x squared. Then 2 times 2 times x squared. We want this 2 term only. We don't want this 2 square. So we minus that this 2 square. Lastly, the value of c, we just follow. Okay, so simplify. The value here, it is equals to negative 3. So our purpose here is going to find out what is your x1. So simplify everything to the right hand side. So for this negative 3, we can move to the right hand side. You are going to plus 3. So after it plus 3, it can be cancelled off. It can be simplified. Equals to 0. Then for square, how are you going to simplify square when you move? So quadratic always got 2 answers, right? So it will have plus, minus, square root of. So although our square and square root can be simplified, but you can notice that when you're doing square, you move it to the right hand side, you have positive, negative square root answer. So means that this question, it has 2 answers. One is x1 plus 2 equals to x2 plus 2. Another answer is x1 plus 2 equals to negative x2 minus 2. Right? Negative, negative. So what's your x1? Yes, this one can simplify up to x2. But for this one, can it get x2? When you move 2 to the right hand side, it minus 2. Minus 2 minus 2 become minus 4. So our result show that our answer doesn't come to one answer only, which is x1 equals to x2. It still have other answer. x1 equals to negative x2 minus 4. So this function cannot be one-to-one function. So we can write the reason, since the result of x1 is not only equals to x2, therefore this is not one-to-one function. So algebraic method and graphical method, they should having the same conclusion but different method of proving. So you can refer back. When you're doing linear, yes, it is one-to-one. Horizontal line test, 1 point. When you're doing quadratic horizontal line test, has 2 intersection point, it's not one-to-one. Same as we calculate using algebraic method. So dia tidak akan jadi graphical method, not one-to-one, sini jadi one-to-one. So means your calculation is something wrong. Okay, so we proceed to question C. Question C function is equals to square root minus 2. So our one-to-one, we will substitute x1 into the function so that it is equals to x2. So substitute into the function, it will be square root x1 minus 2. Square root x2 minus 2. So this one go back to third equation, topic 2. When you're having third equation in topic 2, what do you do? How do you find out the x inside here? We're going to square both sides. Topic 2.1. So square root and square, yes, it can simplify, leaving x1 minus 2. So same as here, square root and square, it can simplify, leaving x2 minus 2. So figure out your x1. Move the value 2 to the right hand side. So you can notice that minus 2 plus 2, it gets 0. So our result is x1 equals to x2 only. One result only. So from here, we can give the conclusion, say that since x1 equals to x2 only, so this is a one-to-one function.